Now, we are joined by a very interesting lady here on the transmission today. In fact, I'm looking for her bio, and she's Lenora Skenazy, and she is a syndicated columnist, author, and public speaker who delivers lively, hands-on parenting seminars at universities and community centers. She has spoken to audiences internationally and appeared on Dr. Phil and Good Morning America and many other Nightline, you name it. In addition to founding the Free Range Kids blog, book, and movement, she has written for everyone from the Washington Post to Mad Magazine, and graduated from Yale and Columbia. She lives in New York City with her husband and 2 sons, and she thinks children shouldn't just watch television all day. She's an extremist. freerangekids.wordpress.com, and of course we had our article, Cops Interrogate Family for Allowing Kids to Play Outside. And even in backyards now, children are being taken. You don't do that. Social services harass a mother for having free-range children. So in the new country where you can't have backyard gardens, can't have lemonade stands, well, pretty soon you won't be able to have more than 1 kid. Thank you for coming on, ma'am. It's
a pleasure to be here, Alex. Thank you.
Good to have you. Okay, well, tell us about this evil movement you're part of. I mean, you're claiming that once children played outside, I think that sounds extreme. Al-Qaeda could get them.
That's right. And in a way, Al-Qaeda is. We just call it CPS, Child Protective Services. What's happening, what I hear about a lot at the Free Range Kids blog is, parents who let their children play outside, walk to school, go to the grocery for them, often have neighbors who turn them in, supposedly out of concern for them.
Good really, Stasi, good people.
Yes, reminds me of the KGB. And what happens? Child Protective Services is obligated to come and check out whether or not these parents really are being negligent or worse, abusive. And what has happened is that the parents are found wrong by the police or by Child Protective Services for leaving their children in what CPS calls a dangerous situation, which I would call a normal, nice situation. In fact, less dangerous than just letting your kids sit inside all day, getting fat and diabetic. You let your kids run outside or have some independent adventures. That's considered bad parenting now. It is so unusual for parents to let their children play outside, climb a tree, that they are being turned in as negligent instead of...
And no other culture does this. I mean, this is completely backwards from everything we do. This even happens in rural areas. I've had families on who've had their kids taken because they let them play in the backyard. I'm talking about 5 and 6 years old with a fence around them. That's not even allowed now.
That's incredible. I do here I'm just going to give you a couple of examples. The one that you wrote about was a mom who has 4 kids. They were outside playing in the field next to her home, not at night with no clothes on. They were next to her house during the day, sunny Saturday weekend day. And it was so unusual these days to see any children outside. The immediate assumption is something's wrong. They've escaped. Maybe they've been kidnapped by somebody, who knows, or could be kidnapped. That's the big fear. And so the police were called, and then the police had to come and actually do a report. One person who wrote to me with a similar situation said that the husband who came out to talk to the cops was later made to take a drug test. Because why would any parent, except one who's crazed on, I don't know, meth or coke or something, even think of letting his kids...
And again, they then intimidate you into the drug test, getting you into the bureaucratic system. But let's expand on this. You're coming on my show, you're going to get dozens of emails and calls. They take kids now. And what's incredible is, even as the Justice Department admits, CPS that you liken to Al-Qaeda, Al-Qaeda's not half as deadly, statistically... hundreds of kids a year die in their custody. You're 5 times more likely to be physically abused or die, 7 times to be sexually abused in CPS. So, oh, your kid might get kidnapped, so we're going to come kidnap them with an industry that's even more dangerous than, perverts getting into the priesthood or TSA. I mean, this is where predators go, is CPS. So now they actually come kidnap your kid because they might get kidnapped.
I actually think that parents are ending up, in a way, kidnapping their kids, too, because if your fear is so overblown that the minute your kids walk outside, some predator is going to jump on them, because that's exactly what you see on Nancy Grace and CSI, whether it's fiction or not, that's the #1 story on television. You're so afraid of them being kidnapped, it almost seems like the only thing you can do to keep your kids safe is to keep them inside, where they're going to the refrigerator and they're watching TV.
Well, this is a great example, because I know you have the statistics on your excellent site. I mean, if you have them in front of you, go over some of that. But kidnapping's actually flat or gone down compared to what it was. But they make such a big deal, just like with terrorism, that it creates the perception that there are kidnappers around every corner.
Right. It's same as like, you don't report on the millions of children who went safely to school today. You report on the one child, perhaps it's the anniversary of a child 30 years ago who didn't get to school. But there's always that one story that the media can find and put in front of our faces. And then our brains put it in, in the file system, which is like Google. If you ask yourself, gee, can my kid walk to school? I actually got that question today to a lady writing to my site. Can my child walk to school? The principal says it's too dangerous. I can see the school from my house, but the principal says no.
They're turning everything into a prison. Right. I mean, it's very simple. The schools are prisons, and they're the nanny state is the prison.
Well, it does seem completely prison-like to say that you must drive your child or sometimes walk your child to school, as if, it's like walking across the yard.
Or put them on the school bus where they get beat up. But let's expand on that.
I don't think the school bus is that dangerous. I think what's really crazy is when people are all driving their children individually to school, wasting the gas, worrying about bullies, teaching them not how to get to school on their own, not to enjoy nature. But the only place you're safe is in an enclosed space, sometimes the SUV, with your parents, and then deposited at
I'll
school.
tell you, the best thing ever happened to me was bullies. That made me the person I am. I love it. I mean, children have to learn to have some adventures.
Adventures is true. And also, while you don't want to, encourage any horrible bullying, bullying has been defined downward, dumbed down to the point where some schools have a list of things that define bullying. And one of them is rolling your eyes at a kid. Come on.
Oh, but here's the deal. When you learn how to face bullies, then you know how to deal with them later in life. They don't want us knowing how to face bullies because the government acts like bullies. They want us to be cowards. When I see bullies now, I know how to deal with them.
Well, I'm glad you do. And I do believe that kids are a lot stronger and more resilient than we give them credit for. And when we think that they can't handle anything, that's when we say, no, you can't walk to school. No, you can't roll your eyes. Remember that story a couple days ago, the 3-year-old whose name was Hunter, but he's deaf? Did you hear about this
Oh,
story?
he can't point his finger now. Mm.
He can't make the sign for his name, which is Hunter. This is Hunter, and this means it's a name. But that is too scary at the deaf school for preschoolers that he's going to because it indicates a gun. And somehow that gets conflated with somebody bringing an actual Uzi in to the
No, they're
school.
putting us into a total mental illness. They're making people mentally ill in basket cases and trying to artificially invoke and create artificial agoraphobia.
Exactly, especially where it concerns kids. When we were talking about this case today with the mother who had her 4 children outside who was visited by the police, recently there was a man who let his 2 kids, 9 and I think 6 or 7, play in a park, and he was arrested because he had left them there for almost 2 hours, and that was considered negligent. I think that's considered believing in your kids, believing in your community, and believing that you're a smart enough parent that you've taught them, don't go off with strangers.
Alex Jones here with a message that could revolutionize health in this country. Going back about 1.5 years ago, I began to learn about the incredible health effects of longevity products. Aaron Dykes lost 92 pounds. We're going to show you some before and afters. Aaron, break down what happened, your story.
I've worked really hard with diet and exercise to try to lose weight, but I just didn't get the results. It just didn't happen. Then I saw what you were doing with InfoWarsTeam.com. I wasn't even trying to lose weight, but I got it because I wanted to feel better energy. I wanted that nutrition. Didn't even understand how that could kickstart my own weight loss goals, but the products did that for me. I found myself suddenly losing weight, more energetic, wanting to exercise, wanting to eat the right foods.
And they don't even advertise it as weight loss. I want to challenge our radio listeners to go to InfoWarsTeam.com, sign up as a distributor, and get wholesale pricing discounts at InfoWarsTeam.com. But freerangekids.wordpress.com, she's having a big effect, too, pointing out that we're prisoners. You drive through neighborhoods now, or you're up in a high-rise building looking at other people's condos. I'm at a party or something, and everything's glowing blue. No one's talking. My friend had a telescope, and I said, what do you see? And he goes, people watching television. Just 50 years ago, folks, you saw people playing chess, people fighting, people having sex. Because I've read books about how the culture's changed. You would see everything with a telescope. Now you see people watching television. It's killing our culture. But now, in just 50 years, it's evil to have your kids out in public. I've seen cases where an 11-year-old throws a fit. Mom kicks him out of the car a mile from home, makes him walk. My mother would kick me out of the car 5 miles from home if I was not doing what she said. I mean, obviously she wouldn't do it in South Dallas. I mean, I can see the poor kids that are locked up in war zones, but, I mean, we lived in an affluent middle-class neighborhood. They're now arresting people. Please continue with some of the other key points.
Point out is that people are doing exactly what you say. They're keeping their kids inside. And I point out, like, the South Dallas idea. It's if your kids are in a terrible neighborhood and there's no alternative to keep them safe, keep them inside. But if you move to a neighborhood because you liked the neighborhood, why are you keeping them inside? You're acting as if you're in a war zone when you have the privilege of letting your kids go outside, but it is so rare that I don't know if you know about my holiday. It's been celebrated for 3 years now, called Take Our Children to the Park and Leave Them There Day. Alex, did you hear about that holiday ever?
Actually, I read about it on your site, and that's what we need. My dad, by the time he was 8 or 9 years old, would be put on the bus by himself, put on planes. You know, I was when I was like 4 or 5 years old, sent to family. And he would get down there, and by the time he was like 12, he would go and work for the summer in Houston.
That's incredible. Yeah, because back then, I mean, not that I want to see child labor resurging in any bad way, but at least we thought that kids were competent and could add something to society as opposed to us just giving them and doing for them.
Well, all it does is arrest development. I watched police cadets today who literally, it was like they had lobotomies. They couldn't swim, they couldn't talk, and this is what we've turned the public into, is these jellyfish.
Right, and the idea is that you're being a good parent because you're hovering over them and you're keeping them from harm. But really, the message they're getting is, I can't do anything without my parents. Their parents wait at the bus stop with their children in the mornings and make sure that they get on the bus, as if it's so dangerous to be there with 3 other kids waiting for the bus, as if they can't get on the bus, as if there's some danger between the bus stop and the bus. And the message kids are getting is, I'm in constant danger, and if my parents aren't here, something bad will happen to me. Thank goodness there's somebody smart and big to take care of no matter what.
Listen, this morning, I mean, I took my children swimming. It didn't happen today, but I'll have my 4-year-old who swims great in like 3 foot of water, swimming, 20 feet away from me, and people will come over and say, you need to do something. And these are adults that can hardly swim. I'm like, listen, there's lifeguards here, and she knows how to swim. She can swim better than you.
Right. I think that actually what Free Range Kids says is that our job as parents isn't to do everything for the kid, isn't to hold your kid up in the pool. It's to teach them the skills they need to be safe and independent. And one of them really is teaching your children how to swim. Teach your children not to go off with strangers. Teach your children how to cross the street safely, because you're not going to be there with them every minute. And the idea that you should be is really treating kids as the lowest common denominator generation ever seen.
Well, look, I mean, let's be honest about it. Everything that happened to black communities in the last 100 years has now been exported everywhere, where they put people in these compact cities, these reservations, just like Native American reservations were really prisoner of war camps. And they get them to the point now where everything I saw growing up in inner city neighborhoods, because I had friends in the inner city, where they were scared to go out, didn't know how to do anything, didn't know how to swim. That's now everybody. Everybody is now, it's like weird if you know how to do something. It's weird if you're not scared. We're becoming prisoners who don't know what to do. We need to be locked up and unlocked. That's our new culture.
It's interesting that you think of it as sort of ghetto culture. I think of it, for me, what resonates is the idea that we are treating children the way we treated women in the 1950s and early 60s, telling them, you can't leave the house. You have everything here. You should be happy with all the
No. Exactly. That's the mode of social control they did to black folks and people and women. I agree with you. It's now being exported onto everybody.
Right, as if nothing is safe. And then, of course, if you have a group of people who doesn't believe anything is safe, you can sell them anything. You can sell them tracking devices for their children. You can sell them a screaming backpack, which I just found out about. Did you know that there's a child carrier, like that you put on your back, and the kid can hang onto your shoulders and sort of be strapped in. That's good for children up to age 7.
Now the children can't walk. I've predicted that soon tying your shoelaces will mean you get the Pulitzer Prize. Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.